All right, welcome back to the Family Cafe, the 23rd annual Family Cafe. This is part of our Intersession as we disperse into our various breakout rooms. We are still here at the International Plaza Ballroom at the Hyatt Regency here in Orlando, Florida. Matt Martucci returning with you once again. I hope you're enjoying the program, the festivities, all of our presenters, everything that has come along with today, which is day two of, in fact, three. We wrap up the conference about 1:30, 2 o'clock hour tomorrow afternoon here at the Hyatt Regency. It has been a great couple of days so far here at the 23rd Annual Family Cafe. Of course, if you do, in fact, want more information on the organization, if you're new to the organization, you're new to the Family Cafe as a whole, familycafe.net. And all the social media links are there as well. If you haven't done so already, hit the Facebook page, which you are watching this on right now. Hit that like button in the upper right-hand corner, and that will give you access to all of the typical news, the posts, everything that comes along with the Family Cafe. And we're going to bring in one of our board members, our board chair, Jim, to talk a little bit about the Family Cafe. We're going to share the table here. We're going to help you with your headset, and we're going to make sure that you have everything you need. And we'll get that microphone nice in there.
Alrighty.
And let's move over here. Let's get a nice clean shot here, Jim.
Right.
Jim, how do we say your last name? I was looking this over before.
Dubogren.
Jim Dubogren, who is the chair of the Family Cafe Board of Directors. Let's start there. When did you first get involved with the organization? How far do you go back with the Family Cafe, which has now been around 23 years?
Well, I actually attended the very first Family Cafe.
Wow.
And I came on board the board of directors shortly after I left state government in 2011. So it's been 10 years now.
And what made you want to get involved, and what drew you to the Family Cafe initially?
Well, actually, my wife has been in this field for a long time, and at the time, I actually worked for the legislature. I was on the House Appropriations Committee, and one of my budget assignments was the old Developmental Services Program Office, which became APD. And so, and I'm also a family member. Susan, my wife, her brother Peter. Has an intellectual disability and was an APD consumer.
Okay.
Still is.
And we just had Director Palmer on here a short time ago, so we're happy to hear that.
Right. And so he's still doing well. And so I learned about it through my wife, who was working for the Developmental Disabilities Council at the time, and they had a booth at the very first event. The governor was here, so it was a very exciting event. I really enjoyed it, and to see it today compared to what it was like 23 years ago, it's you can't help but be very proud. Be very proud of what Lori's accomplished, but also what all the people involved with this organization have accomplished. And I stayed involved in this profession. Again, I served as the APD director for 3.5 years under Governor Christ. And then when I got out of state government, I remained active in the advocacy community, and Family Cafe is one of the primary avenues that I'm able to do that.
Excellent. Well, you can speak to this as well as anybody. You just touched on it just a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
What did this look like for somebody who is just maybe finding the Family Cafe and wants to get familiar with the transition that it underwent? What did this look like in 1998 versus what it looks like now?
Well, it even back in 1998, it was a big event. It was certainly a unique event. It's the only event I'm aware of in the country that is specifically put on by self-advocates and their families, and it's for self-advocates and their families. They're the center of attention. It's not for an industry. It's not for professionals. It is strictly for the people who take advantage of these services, and that was the focus back then. It was And in a lot of ways, it was a lot like it is today, except it was not nearly as big. It was across the street at the Rosen Plaza Hotel, and but it was a well-attended event. It's at least double the attendance today, but it was still a big deal back then. The governor, Governor Bush, Jeb Bush, was in office.
That's right. I've heard some of the stories of Jeb Bush coming and spending, spending an hour after would get off the stage just taking pictures and talking to whoever wanted to talk to him.
Exactly, and when the governor comes, that gives you an air of credibility and certainly just the opportunity. I mean, this is a unique event. It's a unique organization. Every single board member either is a self-advocate or a family member, and in some instances both a self-advocate and their caregivers for others. So in that respect, the success of this event is a testament to what people can accomplish whenever they focus on their abilities and they don't let the fact that they may be challenged with a disability hold them back.
Absolutely, and that's a great point by you. When we talk about the board of directors and the planning that goes into an event like this, when do the conversations typically start? For next year. When you're talking about everything that's going on with the Family Cafe coming in 2022, when do those conversations start? How far in advance?
They already started.
Okay.
We're to be able to secure a venue of this size, there
that
aren't
far in advance. Yeah.
There aren't many places in the country, much less the state of Florida, that has the capacity to host an event like this. So we're identifying the event space a good 5 or 6 years in advance. I mean, so we have it mapped out where this is going to be every year. You can't wait until 12 months before this. So that's well planned out, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of actually planning next year's event. There are already tentative preliminary plans, but the actual nuts and bolts of identifying who's going to be the presenters, who are going to be involved in the breakout sessions, there's a fairly extensive process there, and it will start shortly after this event concludes.
Here's an interesting question when it comes to that. When you start to think about future years, how do you gauge growth in terms of attendance? I almost feel like you have to take previous numbers and you play a bit of a guessing game, but I'm sure there's more of it that goes into that. How do you figure out what attendance is going to be like based on a year, 2, 3 years down the road, and accommodating that?
Well, we are able to project future attendance based on we do see trends.
Sure.
And we in a typical year we would be up around 10 or 11,000 attendees, and so you do have to look at the past. I mean, now with one of the unknowns, I think, is given that a lot of what is going on at this particular event is virtual, and we won't really know what those numbers are until after the event concludes.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say that we had planned on about roughly half of our usual crowd, about 5,000, roughly 5,000 attendees. We blew past that number in no time flat, so certainly there's some pent-up demand, but I would suspect we're going to be back up to our usual 10, 11,000. And then beyond that, it just grows incrementally. It kind of goes up some years, down some years, but there's been a steady growth trend since I became involved with the organization 10 years ago.
Well, as somebody that's seen this for 23 years, I'm sure you had never seen anything quite like the last year. What does it mean to you to be back in person and to just have this, have this community of folks who are once again coming together in an in-person setting?
Well, someone asked me a little earlier today, said, what's your favorite part of Family Cafe? And I said, well, it's not so much the speeches or any of that. I said really my favorite part of Family Cafe is getting here and seeing people that I may only see once a year. It's getting to see a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to come to a nice hotel like this, to be the center of attention like this, having a good time and giving them the tools that they need to be successful. It means everything to me. I'm not much of a virtual. I'm old school. I'm not much of a virtual kind of person.
I
And
understand. Yeah.
so it's just the people, and that's my favorite part. And obviously, when we did this virtually, I miss that. I really miss that. So it means a whole lot to me. I'm thrilled to be back, and I know there's a lot of other people here in the same boat.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people. Happy to be here for my first Family Cafe. This is my first experience with the event, and I'm having a fantastic time. So,
Great, terrific.
well, great to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us on the program. Anything else you'd like to tell the folks about what's coming for the Family Cafe down the road?
Well, I think you'll see more of the same. Obviously we keep innovating. We're always able to find terrific keynotes.
We had some. Yeah, what did you think of I mean, I'm not sure if you got to see Shane and Hannah yesterday or Mickey this morning, but what have you thought of our keynotes so far?
The keynotes are always excellent.
Yes.
And this year has been no exception whatsoever, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Chris Nickick.
Yeah, and his
tomorrow.
dad. That's going to be
Or
something.
Nickett, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, really looking forward to seeing them. What he's accomplished is amazing.
Yeah, believe it or not, and folks at home may or may not have seen this. Chris has his own trading card. I think I saw recently that a company ended up putting out and making for him, which I thought was amazing and just an awesome accomplishment.
That is, and I'll have to find out where to get one.
Yeah, and I think if you look on the internet, you could probably pick up a signed one as well. They're floating around. So
I'll bet I could, and I will.
okay. Well, Jim, thank you so much for stopping by,
Yeah.
and enjoy the rest of the conference and continue to do great work.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And that is Jim Dubogren, who is our board chair for the Family Cafe, and another fine guest of this program during our Intersession. Once again, all the information that you could possibly want on the organization, familycafe.net. And we are going to bring in our next guest. This is Gwen Vandenberg, and we're going to get Gwen all fitted up with her headset. Normally we have a floor manager, somebody that handles these things, but you know what? We're kind of a jack of all trades today. Let's get that microphone nice and close to your mouth. Hi, Gwen.
How are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful as always.
Well, Gwen, let's talk about your association with the Family Cafe. How long have you been coming? What's your history with Family Cafe?
23 years.
Wow.
Yes.
And if I remember right, you have a son
Yes.
with FC that was born
Premature.
Premature.
He was 26 weeks and weighed under 2 pounds.
wow.
And he's going to be 27 years old next month.
And that's amazing. As a father of a couple of premature girls,
Mhm.
I love to hear that, and I love to hear that he's doing so well.
Yes.
What does this conference and just this weekend mean to you?
This weekend means that I can bring back information to my local families to help them if they cannot make it up here. I bring them information back to our local town in Pinellas County and help new families, and whether they can come or not, I try to bring back more information.
And let's talk about what you do, with your advocacy.
Well, we are on APD with CDC Plus, and that has changed our lives where we can have more access and more services available to us, where he receives 2 weeks of 2 times a week physical therapy at a special gym, and he also has a full in-home caregiver, which is my husband, and we pay him to stay home and take care of our son. But our other programs are we try to help out other families and helping them get services so they can be where we are today, because there's a lot of families out there that do not know about Family Cafe. So every day I try to bring a new family. Every week I meet somebody new who's never heard of Family Cafe.
Wow.
So there are people out there that still do not know about us, and I still try to have them come, and they call me personally at home or email me so I can help pass them on to the right resources where they need to go.
Well, that's amazing. Number one, that you're doing that. How did you first discover the event? Who told you? Who was the first person to tell you?
Another mom of a child named Andy, and she told me about it, and that's how I got here. And they have been best friends. They still are friends today.
Oh, that's amazing.
Hmm.
Well, when you think back to when this event started, all the way back in 1998, I mean, you've gotten to see the changes and how much different it is. You know,
Oh,
what so much has changed when you remember the way it used to be versus the way it is now. Outside of the technology, I mean, we weren't on Facebook back then,
no.
but what's different?
There's more people, a lot new faces, and we have many friends throughout the state of Florida. And every year I meet a new family, and we stay in touch throughout the year, and we help each other. It was less people, and now we have a big group of families, and every year we look forward to seeing each other. Because a lot of times one lives on the other side of the state of Florida, and the other one lives on the other.
We talk about that.
Yes.
I'm from the Northeast. I'm from the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, tri-state area, and for the most part, most things are close there. That's one thing I've learned about the state of Florida. There are a lot of cities that aren't that close to one another.
No. And we know people from Ocala, and where we live in Pinellas. We know people in Broward County. We know people in Miami, and all the way up in Jacksonville. So we all stay in touch now through Facebook. But once a year, it's kind of nice to get together and just have a good old time.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And we keep it. We look forward to it. It's really nice. Jonathan looks forward to it every year, and he always reminds me, "Are we going? We going?" I'm like, yes, we're going. So
How hard was that conversation a year ago when it was just going to be primarily you had to tell him it was just going to be primarily virtual?
I cried
Yeah, I'm sure.
because that was the hardest thing for Jonathan, because he always looks forward to this, and had to have him understand if we went, people would get sick, and we do not want people to get sick.
No.
And I cried with him, and took me almost 2 weeks to have him understand why we could not go. And he kind of still does, but he really looked forward to this year. And I made a point we were here, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Let's take me inside his reaction when you first got here, when you first pulled out. How long of a drive is it for you to get here?
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay. So that's a decent amount of time in the
Mhm.
car.
And he had his red hat all the way here, because he has a family cafe hat,
Hat.
and he wears it constantly. He wears it always the first day. He's been in the programs. He's been in the pictures. He's everywhere.
I was just gonna say, did he get his picture taken with Guido this
Oh,
year?
yes. Well, not yet. We haven't seen him yet.
I saw him yesterday. I kind of wanted to flag him down to get
Yeah.
one myself, but I
Well,
didn't get
We
a
played
chance to do it.
Elvis a couple years ago, and he got his picture taken with Elvis.
Okay.
And Guido as Elvis, and I had the best fun. That was enjoyment at the dance. Even though this year we're not doing the dance, he was sad, but he kind of understands why we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So we have next year, and I told him we're going to have an even more party.
Yeah. 2022. The dance
Mhm.
will be that much better.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that he's having a great time. As far as your advocacy, is there a place that folks can potentially contact you if they in Pinellas County or surrounding areas if they want to get in touch with you?
Well, that's a little difficult. They can contact. They can contact the main office. They know how to get a hold of me, the Family Cafe.
The Family Cafe.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be the best resource. And if they see me in a book, that's great. If not, I'm around. And if you see a guy in a red hat in a wheelchair, that's my son,
That's Jonathan.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and I'm so glad that Jonathan's having a great time. It's great to be back, right?
Oh,
in
yes,
person?
it is. And I thank you very much for this interview.
Oh, well, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
You have a good day.
Thank you. You do the same. That is Gwen Vandenberg. And so glad that everybody is back and is able to, in fact, enjoy this in person. I've said this. I can't tell you how many times over the course of these last 2 days, just getting to see the smiles and just the raw emotion and the pure joy that has come with all of the folks that are attending. And I'm sure even with all of you that are watching out in Facebook land right now, just the fact that we are here in person. And the idea that if you are watching virtually this time next year and you want to be able to come to this event, you will have the opportunity to do so. Because as things get back to more and more normalcy across the nation. You would think that the 2022 version of the Family Cafe is that much more jam-packed with folks, and that our in-person attendance is, in fact, even higher than it is this year. But we had over 7,000 folks register, and once again, hope that you are, in fact, enjoying everything that the conference has to offer. We have a couple of other things coming up in the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock hour, just a little housekeeping, a preview of what is, in fact, coming here on our Family Cafe program in the International Plaza Ballroom here at the Hyatt Regency. We're going to do an hour-long presentation on diversity and inclusion. Talithia Edwards will be presenting that. Families with individuals with disabilities, obviously, during a pandemic, especially, even more so than just everyday life, you might feel alone, you might feel isolated from society, but then think about the idea of being, not only having a disability, but being a minority and having a disability, and the particular challenges that presents. So 4 o'clock hour to the 5 o'clock hour, that's what we will be talking about. And then 5:30, or I believe it's the 5:30 hour, or 5:30 hour to 6:30, Katie Smith, who is on the board of the Family Cafe, works in politics in Atlanta, has been a Family Cafe attendee basically since it started. She was on our program earlier, talked about her older brother Daniel, who has autism and also Tourette's, who is a person in the disability community. And Katie is going to make a presentation about how, in fact, you and your loved ones, if you want to be an advocate for the disability community, how you do that from just being somebody at home, how you go from being, someone who's watching one of these things for your loved one to a self-advocate if you don't necessarily know, in fact, how to do that. So Katie Smith is going to be presenting around 5:30. So just a sign of what is to come here at the Family Cafe. Day number 2 of 3. We've already had a couple of keynotes recapping what we had yesterday. Shane and Hannah Burkall talked about what it's like to be in an interabled relationship, shared a lot of their experiences in that interabled relationship, the fact that they use humor to kind of combat the everyday ignorance of folks in society who try to say nice things but come off as ignorant without even knowing that they're necessarily being ignorant. So Shane and Hannah gave an excellent talk, an excellent presentation on that topic yesterday. And then today, we had Mickey Rowe, who came all the way from the West Coast, from Seattle, Washington, to be with us and talk about his experience as a person with autism and as an autistic actor who has, in fact, won a Tony Award. He played Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who I didn't even know when we started the day today. I've seen the movie Amadeus, was not aware that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was somebody who in fact did have autism. So just from Mickey's own presentation there, I learned that. But awesome to see Mickey's approach, to his everyday life as a husband and a father, and the way that he is in fact a self-advocate and an advocate for the disability community. Once again, familycafe.net for all of your needs, all of your news, all of your information about volunteering. If you want to, in fact, donate, there is a donate button and what is a PayPal link if you want to, in fact, donate. But we're having a great time this weekend. We've had all kinds of great guests. Governor Ron DeSantis was in the House last night to give a brief presentation. We had the former Governor Rick Scott. And I believe we are going to bring on what is our next guest, and that is James Williams, who is a self-advocate in the disability community and an author as well. And we'll get your headset taken care of here, and we'll try to make that the most comfortable as possible with around your face shield here and your mask. How are you, James? Let's step in. Let's share the table here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, great. Well, tell me your connection to the Family Cafe, how long you've been coming. I know I saw you talking to Laurie Fahey last night when we were all out at dinner, but what's your connection to the Family Cafe?
So my name is James Williams, and I am a self-advocate for with autism. And I have been attending events related to autism and other disabilities ever since I was 8 years old.
Wow. And how old are you now, James?
I'm 32 now.
Wow. So 24 years worth of attendance.
Yes, not at the Family Cafe,
Not
but
understood.
the
Understood.
events in general. So growing up, I grew up in the limelight of self-advocacy and grew up starting as a kid, gave my first ever public presentation when I was 11 years old,
Wow.
and just built that career. And then after successfully fighting for the right to stay in high school until my 22nd birthday and winning, during my senior year when I was 21 years old, I was invited to be the keynote presenter for the CARD conference, Florida's annual autism conference. And as a keynote presenter there, I had a great successful presentation, and that was kind of like my Florida debut. It was the first time I came to Florida and I presented. And while I was there, I learned about the different services that Florida has to offer, met many people down here, and it was there that I learned about the Family Cafe Conference.
Excellent.
And people were like, hey, you got to come here. You got to come here, go to the conference, experience it for yourself. And at the time, I had already established myself as a self-advocate up in the Midwest where I'm from. I'm actually from Chicago, Illinois.
It's a little warmer here.
Yeah, but I said to myself, okay, this is my time. Now that I've come to Florida once, let me spread my wings and learn about advocacy in other parts of the country. So, at the age of 21, a week after I aged out of the educational system, I flew down to the Family Cafe for the first time in 2010, came here, fell in love with it, and then saw the Family Cafe as a great place for me to share my self-advocacy work, but also to learn about the issues that people with different disabilities face.
That's number one. That's an amazing synopsis of how you in fact found it. What has that experience been like for you since you started coming? What do you see as the biggest benefit as a person with autism and just for the disability community? With the Family Cafe and the fact that the Family Cafe is here now, 23 years in existence.
Well, one of the things that attending the Family Cafe has really taught me is that a lot of people with disabilities, because of their different needs, sometimes will identify themselves as being part of their distinct disability culture.
Sure.
And many people with disabilities have formed cultures among other people with disabilities because, in many ways, it gives people with disabilities a sense of belonging, that their disability represents a community with norms and social rules created by those people with disabilities that reflects their needs. But there's a huge variety of diversity among people with different disabilities, and as a result, each disability culture is vastly different. And coming to the Family Cafe helped me learn about those cultures and the wide variety of the different disability cultures that exist. You see, before the Family Cafe, most of my self-advocacy was within the autism community because I have autism. That was my community. And it was here at the Family Cafe that I got to learn about other disability communities and also how to branch out and be a self-advocate not just for the autism community, but for other people with disabilities as well.
Well, for the disability community as a whole, you've had a long time worth of experience in terms of seeing the challenges that those individual communities and the community as a whole face. What do you think are the biggest challenges still ahead for not only the autism community, but the Family Cafe community, the disability community as a whole?
I think probably the biggest challenge is that although most people with disabilities have primarily in common the fact that they're all fighting for services and accessibility within the auspices of the same form of government that might not always understand them, there are some cases where the needs of one person with a disability clash and aren't always compatible with the needs of another person with a disability. And therefore, probably the one challenge that occurs in the Family Cafe is when people with disabilities have opposite accessibility needs.
Sure.
And it was actually coming to the Family Cafe that I got to learn about what those clashes could comprise of, and then try to brainstorm, how do we become aware of those clashes and try to work with them?
And try and bridge the
Yes.
gap if there in fact is one. What about your work as an author? Let's talk a little bit about that. When did that start?
So I've always had a passion for writing, and in fact, my passion for writing actually reflects my unique form of autism, wherein I learned how to read and write before I could fully speak. I was a late talker, didn't really fully become fluent in language until I was 6 years old, but I learned how to type and read and write around ages 3 and 4. So I was learning how to read and write before I could speak, which didn't come fluently, like I said, until the age of 6.
Yeah.
And so I always loved writing, but as a kid, obviously, I didn't entirely have the discipline to write a book. But that was one of my life goals, to write books. And although I've had many roadblocks along the way, a lot of people from various backgrounds who wanted to discourage me from that writing career, I've always enjoyed, writing and telling my story. And even now, between writing books, I do a lot of writing on social media and especially my Facebook timeline.
Okay. I was going to ask you, do you have a book coming out? Is there one potentially you're working on, or?
Well, during the pandemic, I was able to publish my most recent book, a book co-written by another autistic adult.
Wow.
Named West High Story. And this is a novel about some of the issues that people with autism face while in high school.
And what's the title, James?
West High Story.
West High Story. There we go. And is it where can we get it?
Well, that book is available for sale at the exhibit hall here, but obviously for those who are not part of the Family Cafe, I am hoping to, it's just come out, create a place on the internet where it can be sold, particularly through my website, www.jamesmw.com, where some of my other books are currently for sale, and I also have preserved archives of various written presentations I have done throughout the years.
All right. Well, then jamesmw.com, right?
Yes.
That's where you can, in fact, check out James's book and connect with you as well. All your social media is listed there as well.
Yes.
All right. So that's James Williams, a self-advocate, not only for the autism community, but for the entire Family Cafe community, and a wonderful guest of our fine program. Thank you for stopping by this afternoon.
You are welcome.
You enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
So, James Williams, we've had some great guests over the course of the last 2 days. We still have tomorrow going on, where we have another keynote. We have more presentations still to come today. Coming up here in about the next 3 or 4 minutes, we will be talking, and as I had mentioned before, a little bit more about diversity and inclusion as it relates to the Family Cafe community. You think about the challenges that people and families with disabilities, in fact, face on a daily basis. Well, add in obviously being in the Black community, in the Hispanic community, in the minority community, just in general, and there's a whole nother layer of that. But one of the best things about this weekend and about the Family Cafe, going all the way back to 1998 when Laurie Fahey and her staff started this, they wanted to create communities for people with disabilities that were, inclusive. And that will be a big part of this next presentation about how to be more inclusive, more friendly, more forthcoming when it comes to information, connecting folks not only in the minority community but also in that have disabilities, and being able to connect them with other families. How do you find the resources? How do you find the information? How do you find just the right people, in fact, to connect with in general regarding that subject matter? But was starting to kind of recap before. We talked about Jane and Hannah Burkall from day one. We talked about Mickey Rowe earlier today on day 2, and just Mickey being a self-advocate and the experience that he's in fact had tomorrow, and Chris Nickick and his dad, and you read about some of the things that that young man has accomplished just, through his triathlons and what he's been able to compete in and accomplish as a person with disabilities. So looking forward to hearing what Chris and his dad have to say tomorrow in our third and final keynote here of the 23rd Annual Family Cafe. I hope you are having a good time on our Facebook page, watching through the live stream right now on our Facebook video live stream. If you do, in fact, like it, you want to share it with somebody else, hit that share button. Hit the like button on the Family Cafe Facebook page, familycafe.net, of course, for more information about how to volunteer, about how to donate, about any organizational news, registration links. If you're late to the party and maybe you're just coming for the final day tomorrow, and I believe you can still fill out registration information. The registration desk is again open if you wanted to do it in person. It's right down the hall from where we are here in the International Plaza Ballroom here at the Hyatt Regency. And this venue, by the way, fantastic. Absolutely top-notch. Want to give our friends here at the Hyatt Regency just plenty of applause because there are only a handful of venues that could, in fact, accommodate an event of this size. But if you've never been here before, if you've never been to the Hyatt Regency here in Orlando, man, this place, it's just massive. It almost feels endless. If you had a fitness device, if you had like a Fitbit on, your steps would be just totally out of control. So that's our final thought before we get into our next presentation, which will be from one of our earlier guests, by the way. That is, in fact, Bob Streeter, who is an ordained minister and at one point early in his life was a burn victim, overcame those challenges, and ended up being, you might have heard him earlier on our program, an all-state runner in high school, and just has accomplished so many things in his life. So Bob is going to present on race, diversity, and inclusion in the disability community, and he is our next presenter. So we're going to turn the floor over here at the International Plaza Ballroom here at the Hyatt Regency. Once again, thanks to our production director, Michael Fahey, and our entire great staff, our cameraman, Daniel, and everybody here at the Family Cafe. We will be back in a little over an hour, folks. This is Matt Martucci. We'll talk to you in a little bit.